Welcome to our SPSS class number 7. I am your facilitator, Brighton Coma. I should believe this is one of the exciting class that we are going to have this evening, because this now brings us to the fundament of doing the analysis. So these are the tables and the graphs that we've been producing together. Now, data analysis, what we've been doing is data analysis, but from our chapter 4 here, you see, data analysis and interpretation. Someone will look at this table, they will like it, that wow, this is a good table, but they don't know the meaning of these numbers that are here. So we want to actually now do the interpretation of these numbers that we have here. We need to attach the meanings to the statistics that we have. So we are going to proceed. Like you can see, I'm labeling things in order. In the same way, you have to imitate me. So the title of the table comes on top there, table 1. And for the analysis of the table, is supposed to, it's supposed to come actually on top there. So I'll start. I'll say table 1 below shows background characteristics of respondents. I'll just edit here. So the other thing about the interpretation is that the language is always the same. If I want, I can copy something from somewhere and just paste them here and start doing the further editing. So I usually start with the highest percentage. Now, something key when you're doing the data analysis or the interpretation is that it's not always that we are just going to be quoting the percentages to say 10% were single, 50% were single. There are also other terminologies that we can use. For example, 50%. If I want, I would say half of the population were divorced. I can also say 1/3 of the population. 1/3 means 33%. If I had 30, I can say slightly below 1/3, which is 30%. If I had 66, I would say 2/3 of the population. Slightly above 2/3, slightly below 2/3. So if I had 25%, I can say quarter of the population is still correct. So here I would say men of the respondents where men of the respondents. So immediately I use the word men of. I need to enclose it in brackets and justify by putting a percentage. I justify the word men. So here I'm putting, this is a 50% we are talking about. So I'm using 50% as a word that means I have to be consistent throughout. If I put 50% as a symbol, I have to be consistent throughout. Where divorced divorced 1/5, which is 20%. I have also to say 20% were married. They are married, comma, 12.5 there. When you round it off, it will give you 13. So I'll say 13% where we dot 10% were single, and the minority, meaning the lowest number, the minority, which is 7.5. So I'm just justifying the word the minority there. I don't have to round off. Then I will now actually do this, then center things, then say 1.5 spacing, just to actually, justify that the 7.5% there, those were the minorities. So it means I've actually exhausted the first part, which is marital status. I'll move on. So I'll finish there. That's a paragraph. Then I'll start. In terms of age, in terms of education, slightly above 1/3, then I'll put in brackets to actually justify the slightly above one page, 37.5%. attend tertiary education, full stop. Slightly below, sorry, let me not use the word slightly below, just say below 1/3. So I'll put a percentage at 27.5%. So why don't I say slightly above quarter, 7%, add no education, comma, then 1/4, which is 25%, add primary education, and the list, I'll justify in brackets the meaning of the word list there, and the list, add primary education. So it means I have actually finished. Then I'll go to the last variable, which is religion. So I want to start with a number. So if I want to start with a number, I would say 50, 55. I can't write a number I can't start with a number and just write it as a number. So it's 55% where Christians, slightly above, 55% where Christians, 20% or quarter, 20% where Islam's and the list .5% were Christians, 20% were Islams, and the rest belonged to other religions in the world. So it means I have actually done the interpretation for the first table. Table 1 below shows background characteristics. Many of the respondents, 50%, were divorced. So I'll move on. I'll go to the next one. Like I said, the language is the same. So I actually had prepared this report. I can just come here if I want, copy this, I can copy that, then come and paste these things under. Then I can start with my analysis. I'll say table 2 above shows age of respondents. Many of the respondents, .5% in the survey were in the age group. 15 to 19. 35% were in the age range 25 to 29. And I'll say 15% were aged 20 to 24, and another 15% were in the age group 30 to 34. Full stop. It means I have done the analysis for this table. I'll move on. I'll go to my pie chart. So the graphs, we call them figures. So this is the first figure. So I'll show figure 1 below reveals that the majority 70% feels that it is good for someone to know his or her HIV status, whereas the minority 30% feels it's not good for someone to know his or her HIV status. Figure 1 below shows that the majority. Then I'll just remove these things in bold. Then I'll say 1.5. Then I'll do this. So have you seen how I'm constructing my story. In as much I'm doing the interpretation, I'm also writing a story which should be very interesting. I have written, not in so many words, I've written below. Figure 1 below shows that the majority, 70%, feels that it is good for someone to know his or her HIV status, whereas the minority feels it's not good for someone to know his or her HIV status. I've used whereas because I've only two things, so I'm doing a comparison. I have not just said that 70% said yes to know HIV status and 30% said no. That's not the correct way of doing the analysis. You should actually, tell the story that is very interesting, that if someone reads, they should actually be attracted to further read what is inside your report. I will quickly demonstrate, possibly the last one. Now, this is a question which actually was an open-ended question, and this was a narration. Now, how do you deal with a question that actually presented in a narrative format? I first started by actually putting these things in percentages. So I'll quickly analyze, then further add soup to this. Then you can finish with the rest of the things. Figure 2 below shows that many students, so I'll put this is 75%. 75% feels sensitization. Below shows that many students feel that sensitization is the role that students should play in the fight against HIV. 20% feels 20% feels abstinence should be practiced among students. The minority 5% feels students should actually take responsibility in their sexual life. So I have done the analysis here. I'll do this so that it looks good. So now, the mistake which people make is that they'll actually start, explaining these things. The point of explanation will come under discussion of key findings. Here you're just reporting on the findings. Responsibility. Responsibility. Now, like I said, that I'll add meat to the soup. These answers that we have here, abstinence and sensitization and responsibility, these were just the responses that we collapsed. What about if people are giving us narrations? Now this is how you actually deal with now pure qualitative. So you actually start based on the numbers that you have. You can say it seems that many students, so here I'm not actually putting the percentages, and the many there is actually being generated from this. It seems that many students feels that sensitization campaigns within the University of Zambia premises will help in fighting HIV/AIDS. This is so because if students are empowered with adequate knowledge, they will make informed decisions about their sexual life. I'll do this. So what I'm doing here is that people gave me the narrations. Now from those narrations, I'm actually now making statements. Now for me to actually validate this statement here, I have to quote some of the respondents who talked about sensitization. So assuming that this was a response of one of the respondents, they said sensitization is a tool that can be greatly used in the fight against HIV/AIDS. Student associations should conduct door-to-door awareness campaigns on the negative effects of HIV on someone's life. So this is a respondent which one of the students gave. So we are actually, extracting the narrations. So you pick the best responses. So for you to actually show that these are quoted responses, you have to put in closed inverted commas. Then you even put in italics so that it becomes different from the person who gave you the response. It becomes different from your own statement. Then you can say fourth year student. You're assuming this response came from a fourth year students unza. Then you put in brackets, then you do this, then you actually put it on the other side. So you must also remember that confidentiality is very important. Let's say you are dealing with the University of Zambia, then the Vice Chancellor gave you the response, and then this response is very sensitive. Would you say Vice Chancellor University of Zambia? No. You just say member of staff. because there are quite a number of members of staff. So you can actually quote another person here if you so few you'd want to quote. So you can also quote another student. Maybe you said awareness campaigns can be used to spread the really needed information which students lack on the dangers of HIV/AIDS. I feel students lack proper information and guidance on HIV. This is a response which another student gave you. So you put in close inverted commas, this is a quoted response, then you put in italics, then you quote the person who gave you. First year student Unza. Put in, move in italics, then you put it on the other end. So it means you've actually exhausted everything on sensitization. You can move a step ahead if you still want to do the analysis. You can also say that in as much as students feel that sensitization is something that is very fundamental, practicing abstinence was also something that was noted to be among the suggestions that were coming from the students. You actually give your own statement, then to validate your statement, you quote some of the responses that are actually related to abstinence. This is how you actually deal with narrative kind of questions, where you actually have answers that are coming as narrations. So thank you so much.